Welcome to the AFD Cycling Podcast. This is cycling from an Irish perspective, and today is St. Patrick's Day, so we get our St. Patrick's Day special, and also we'll be previewing the Drogheda Wheelers Rosslyn and Ogue Ute Race 2026. Of course, Rosslyn and Ogue being the first race of the season in 2026 for Utes. As always, it's going to be a 2-day race in Bellewstown with 3 stages over the course of the 2 days. Stage 1 of Rosslyn Ogue 2026 will be a criterium, as it has the last couple of years, set on a 1.6 kilometre circuit, which obviously you do numerous laps on. The circuit has 28 metres of climbing on it, which is quite a bit for 1 kilometre, I must say, for a criterium. At the start, it goes pretty much straight downhill at about maximum of 8% gradient, and then you take the first left-hander, so we're moving left to right here from this green dot on the map you can see taken from Strava. First is left-hander, you're still going down into this left-hander, and then the road after you take the left-hander curves to the right and then the left again. You're still going downhill here, and then you hit a bit of a plateau, but it's quite low down for a plateau, I must say, if you were going to call it that. But it starts to go up then again, climbing pretty much the whole way to the finish, but really starts to bite after that little flat bit. Then it kind of evens out a little bit, but you're still climbing a whole way up to that left-hander. You can see in the top left of the map there's the left-hander, and then you turn onto a very straight road, and it's actually a lot of crosswinds. The last 2 years there's been crosswinds there when I was doing the race. Obviously varying degrees of crosswinds. The 2024 edition had very, very bad winds throughout the whole race, and 2025 didn't really have bad winds. It's just you get caught up by winds there, and then you have that left-hander up to the finish, and it's uphill sprint to the finish. It's about 300 meters from the finish, from that final turn up to the finish line, and when you take the turn, you'll be able to see the truck just over the right. You'll be able to see the top of the truck, which is where in line with the finish line, so that's how you'll be able to know where the finish line is. Stage 2 is a much harder route. It's definitely the hardest stage on the race. So from the start, once again you're going straight downhill, but this way you're going the opposite way from the start of the criterium. But you take an early left-hander and that flies you down a hill. You take a left-hander when there's a fork in the road, and you come flying down huge speeds, actually crosswinds enough as well on this flat bit. As you see where I'm talking about, we're moving diagonally down the map. On the bottom of the map, we're moving diagonally down, and you start to climb. Then you go down, and you go a little bit up, and then it's huge downhill, but it's very short, but it's very steep, and then you're up a hill, and the hill, it's kind of consistent gradient as you go up, and then it flattens out, and you take a left-hander, and then it just shoots up again, really steep. And that is a place to watch for people to go. And then it kind of comes off a bit and goes down. You're into the turn, another couple of hills as well. The turn is where it's flattened off. If you see the first turn in the turn in the bottom right of the map, that's the turn where it flattens off, and then that is the turn you're taking to go up the steep bit. I'm probably not doing the best job of explaining this. But then you're up and down a couple of hills, and then that next left-hander, which is the final turn really on the route, you're coming down a huge hill, flying down into that. So there's been crashes there in the past where riders have overshot into the ditch and overturned and slid out along the tarmac. So that's one to watch. And then you're straight up into an uphill, and that's probably the hardest bit really on the legs, is because it's all so stretched out, and then people are going, and it's just crosswinds as well. Even though you got hedges, it's very windy, and you have to push it on. Then you get a little bit of rest, and then you're up again for the finish. There's a drag up to the finish, also very windy. 2024 edition throw after that. Such a bad storm that weekend, such high winds, and we were coming up that we were getting blown over and back across the road trying to come up the finishing hill because the winds were just that bad. So we'll have to see how it is this year. Very windy out here today now, I'm looking, so hopefully we can get better weather for it this year, but it's pretty consistent with March and April weather to be very windy, so we'll have to see. Well, stage 3 is actually my favourite stage on the circuit, on the stage race, sorry. The circuit I find is very nice. So you start out left-hander from the start. Obviously you're behind the car for a bit, then you start going, you're going up a hill, but that's not really the hill that makes the difference in the race, because everyone's so grouped together in it. Obviously you do quite a couple of laps on it, but I haven't really seen that hill make the difference. So it's not really a hill, it's just going uphill, you know what I'm saying? So then you come down and you're going down for a fair bit and it's quite fast, and then you're just undulating road, and then that left-hander, you can see in the top right, the left-hander that goes kind of up and then it just drops in and it just kind of swings left on. Now it's a different road, but it swings left and it just goes up and then it kind of comes down a bit. But that, especially with the U gears, that can make a difference, because if you're able to get through the corner fast, and obviously before the turn there's not much you can do to get into position if you're not positioned a good while before the turn, because the U gears, you can't really accelerate that much on a downhill. You take the left-hander, and then if you're able to have a go on the uphill where your gears will bite and then it starts to flatten out down a bit, you can stretch the bunch, and that's what's happened to me in my races a couple of times. The group has really stringed out, but I don't think it's ever actually gone there, the race, in any of mine, but it definitely does string out a fair bit. Then you're just straight along that road, really fast, that piece of road actually. Then you take a left-hander, and that part of the road there, so you can see kind of as we're coming down if you're looking at the map, we're coming down the map now, and it kind of kinks, as you're doing it, it kinks right and then left, but as we look at it, it's left and then right. But when you're taking that, it starts to go uphill at that first kink in the road, but it doesn't really go too hard uphill, and then it kind of just shoves uphill a fair bit. You see a lot of people would try to go there and carry the speed on a flat, because you know, U gearing, there's not a huge amount of stuff you can do on U gearing in some of these hills. And then you come down over the top, that's probably a hill where most stuff actually go, and it's down a hill, fast one, back up. Calling these hills now, they're probably not hills, they're more lumps, but in the race you'll notice that it feels harder on them. And then big descent down toward the left-hander. You take the left-hander, and that road in slightly downhill, it is really, really fast into that finish. That's where the Coombs Conor uses his finish as well. On U gears, you want to be, if it's coming to a sprint finish, you want to be top 5 in that bunch, maybe even top 3, because you also don't want to be so far forward that you can get jumped really easily from behind or in the wind, but you want to be able to see other people go. You don't want to get caught unaware, so that's why you want to be a little bit further back, but you don't want to be too far back that obviously with the U gears, even the amount of power you put out, everyone's doing such a high cadence that you can't really accelerate that much faster, so you want to be up there so you're able to catch them, if you know what I mean. You're able to get on their wheel, whoever goes first, or if you want to go first, then that's an ideal position to be as well, because you can catch them unaware. But I think especially leading out, if it's a bunch, obviously leading out the bunch is really a bad place to be. So this is the scoring obviously taken from the 2025 roadbook, not the 2026. You don't know how many times I've pronounced 2026 wrong today. I've had to retake this like 20 times just because I couldn't say 2026. So first is 100 points, second is 97, third is 95, fourth is 93, and then from then on, from 5th to 20th, it decreases by 1 point to 77, and then from 21st onwards, all riders will be allocated 72 points, so 5-point difference from 20th to 21st. So that brings to an end my preview of the race. Hopefully you'll see me there on the day if you're coming up to the race, or if you're doing the Adult Coombs Connor race, which is on the day as well. So hopefully you watch out for coverage on the day on the AFD Cycling Podcast channel on YouTube. Hopefully I can get some good videos up while I'm trying to spill my guts out there on the road, going as hard as I can. But hopefully it's a good day. I'm excited for the first race of the season. So we've had to wait a long while since, it's been a long while since Nationals, hasn't it? So I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.